The Joe Rogan podcast has gained immense popularity for its diverse range of topics and guests, often delving into controversial subjects that challenge mainstream narratives. From science and politics to spirituality and the unexplained, Joe Rogan fearlessly explores the depths of human knowledge and curiosity. In this video, we will unravel 10 Joe Rogan's in-depth investigation and controversial findings, exposing listeners to alternative perspectives that have captivated the imaginations of millions. But before starting the video, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to never miss out on any of our videos.
I honestly think it's coming from his wife.
Those folks are not going to like this.
I think it's coming from his wife.
This is going around today. This is a jacket she wore to
what she's saying?
meeting.
It says, "I really don't care, do you?"
Yeah, and this was to a meeting of the immigration
Yeah.
kids. She's meeting
What?
the kids. Yeah,
What is that? Is that some fashion jacket?
that she wore to that event. Yeah.
What a stupid fucking thing to wear. I really don't care, do you? Yeah, I care. Yeah, I do care. But what are we talking about? What a bizarre, open-ended question. I really don't care about what?
The tone deafness of these people. They have no sensitivity to
she's
how
an
it
open
looks.
critic, though, of separating children from their families. And she actually made a surprise visit to the Mexican border today to check in on it. Yeah, to see what's going on.
Good for her.
Yeah, good. Well, she's an immigrant. I mean, this is the irony of the whole thing. She barely speaks English. The whole thing is so bizarre. Is that his own wife is a fucking immigrant. I mean, clearly. The whole thing's crazy. It's really strange. But that jacket, like, this is the sign of the simulation. Have you considered the simulation theory?
Yes.
Might be real. Might be real. It might be real. I mean,
well, sometimes I do wonder. I mean, it's like reality, whatever we choose to call it, is becoming so weird that I often ask myself, who is writing this shit? And can't they get a better writer? You know, I mean, the plot is so absurd, and yet,
I began actively considering it when Congressman Weiner kept pulling his dick out. I was like, this is just crazy.
Right.
That guy. I'm like, this is just too much. And then when Trump won, I just was sitting down going, imagine if one day someone shuts it off and the lights dim and then they turn back on and you realize, well, the game's over. How did you like it? And you're like, what? That was fake? Yeah, you just went. It only took an hour. How long did it seem? Like 50 years, you know? And you're in a simulation.
But also, you need to get rid of these really corrupting financial entanglements between the pharmaceutical industry and the regulatory agencies that has put agency capture on steroids. For example, almost 50% of FDA's budget comes from pharmaceutical companies. They're not working for us. They're working for the pharmaceutical company with CDC. CDC has a $12 billion budget, and about almost $5 billion of that goes to buying vaccines in sweetheart deals from these 4 companies and then promoting them to the public. And so they're really partners with the pharmaceutical industry in the way that you get a promotion at CDC and the way you get recognition and salary increases and good performance reviews is by increasing vaccine uptake, not by finding problems with vaccines. And it's a really bad, it's no longer serving as a regulatory agency. NIH has probably even the worst. If you work at NIH and you work on a vaccine or other medical product, you are allowed to pocket royalties from that product. So any product that you work on, you can collect royalties on. You can collect royalties that are now capped at $150,000 a year for life, forever, not just life, but for your children's lives, et cetera. As long as that product is sold, you have margin rights for the patent. If you worked on it at NIH, so the Moderna vaccine, which is half owned by NIH, which means NIH will get half billions and billions of dollars from the sales of that vaccine, which they made, they're promoting. They're telling everybody you need to get this. But also there's either 4 or 6 individuals who were Anthony Fauci's direct deputies who themselves are collecting $150,000 a year for life, forever, from that product.
You know, Les Stroud.
Yeah.
He did that show about
Survivor Man Bigfoot, yeah.
but it just went away.
Bro, that show, I love Les Stroud. I love him. I love Survivor Man. That show was so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
He had a guy on the show that is known in the Bigfoot world as being full of shit.
Yeah.
Which is bad. Like, if the Bigfoot world's pretty open-minded. I mean, this is one of the things that I wanted to bring up about that 411 The Hunted thing. There's audio recording that was supposedly taken from the 1970s from Northern California. I want to say Sonoma? I don't remember where it was. It was somewhere in Northern California, but they call them the samurai sounds. The samurai, and it's the weirdest shit ever, man. It's like these guys had this spot that they would go into the mountains, and they would hunt every year. And they built this structure out there, and then they brought recording equipment, and they claimed to have recorded sounds of these animals, these Bigfoot, and that these Bigfoot were around them all the time while they were up there. Now, what's crazy about it is the sounds are so weird. It sounds like someone pretending to be Japanese that doesn't actually speak Japanese. Yeah. Have you ever heard it? No. We'll play it for you. It's because it's the weirdest shit. It sounds so strange and so fake, but, you know, like they have these quote-unquote experts that say the human voice is not capable of making sounds remotely similar to this. The range is... Which doesn't make any sense if you know who Michael Winslow is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I know.
That guy that guy went on...
He does a woman peeing when she goes to the bathroom.
He does everything.
Yeah, he does everything.
He did Led Zeppelin. He played Whole Lotta Love with his mouth.
Yeah.
And it sounds incredible. But this samurai sound, like, there's these loud whoops, whoops, and these guys are like in the foreground, you know, like the guys who are recording, they're trying to communicate with these things. They sound so calm. I mean, if there really was giant fucking 8-foot apes out there wandering around, like, you know, 200-300 yards away from you, screaming and whooping and talking, would you really, and you're in the woods, would you really be so calm? Wouldn't you be freaking the fuck out?
Oh,
with
yeah.
these guys? Do you have it?
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I find the right thing because I'm stumbling across some traps.
Oh.
It's like people are fucking around on the internet.
I wish I could remember the gentleman's name.
Well, I think I have it. That's all I'm saying. So, Ronald J. Moorhead and Alan Berry, maybe? Is that right?
Yes, Ron Moorhead. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. The Sierra Mountains. That's what it is.
That's another question.
Okay.
If, let's say Donald Trump just said, I'm going to fucking make an announcement. We're going to have one comedy tour, and just one, and they wanted to put you guys in the comedy tour, and Trump said, we can
What
fill
are you
stadiums.
talking about?
Would you do it?
Would
you jump on
do
it?
that? I
No?
don't do anything for anybody like that.
No?
No, I'm not doing any shows for. Why would?
No, to like as the first shows, this is going to break down the barriers for comedy shows. Donald Trump
No.
allows
No,
you.
I
He's
can't-
giving you.
Well, me
he's
and
giving you
Callan
the
are doing
freedom.
it. Me and
No,
Callan
I
are
don't
doing
need
it. We're
to
on
be
the road.
You guys are doing it. Would you
I
do
don't
it?
need to be given
I'm
the
doing it,
fucking
yeah.
freedom that we
You
already
can't just do a
had.
concert right now. No, he
They
said,
need
I'm
to-
going to allow you. Donald
When-
Trump said, I'm going to allow you this one tour. Full stadiums, one tour. Joe's not in. Are you in?
Joe's not
I
in.
want
Are
to be
you
able
in?
to breathe underwater too.
Are you in? Are you in?
Yeah, man. Well, me and Brian
I
are
would
doing
fucking
it.
do it.
Can I bring my silverware
Brian and I
knife?
are doing it.
Can I
Look
bring my
how-
silverware knife?
Look how Brian tucks his knife right
I'm
next
sorry.
to his
That would be
cock.
This
the
is
greatest
sexy as
tour
fuck.
ever, dude.
Look,
Donald
look.
Trump approved.
Watch this,
You guys
ready?
can fill stadiums.
Watch this.
How crazy would that be?
Hey, bro,
What's up?
is there a problem? That's fucking
I like
sexy.
your.
That's pretty cool. Your
I
jeans
like
are
your-
so tight.
I like your pizzeria worker tank top underneath your t-shirt.
Shut up, Joe. That's my secret. I don't
That
like people knowing.
pizzeria worker tank top.
Yeah, I like your Old Navy Masters Division top.
I was in my own private
So
gym
cool.
wearing a tank top, and I was embarrassed.
You were.
My own private gym, working out by myself with
Like,
a tank
what the
top.
fuck
I,
am I
own,
doing?
I, own one,
embarrassed.
I own one tank top. It's that old. It's that old fucking.
Abbott
Federal-
Kenny?
Abbott Kenny. I
Yeah.
love that. Those are
Abbott
great
Kenny
tank
fuck
tops.
You guys
great.
follow Donald Trump Jr.?
No.
You guys don't follow Donald Trump Jr.?
Eddie,
What?
Hey, you're changing the
Please.
subject, bro.
We're trying
We're-
to- We're trying to steer this back into being fun.
No, I thought for sure you guys followed him.
No.
You should.
Oh, dude.
On Instagram, follow Donald
tell you what
Trump.
needs
He's
to-
so gangster. The shit he posted today, oh my
Yeah, he
motherfucking
trolls
God.
him.
Dude.
He's a beast.
He's a fucking beast on the internet. Holy shit! Follow Donald Trump's
didn't
son.
he post something crazy about Joe Biden? Like some meme of Joe Biden. After a while, pedophile, see you later, alligator.
Yeah, he does all that shit.
Something like that.
Yeah, he goes hard.
Yeah,
But
he goes
that was-
hard.
Yeah,
that was one
I
that's
see him. I don't
whoa.
follow him, though.
Yeah.
But that's a crazy thing to even
When your dad's
joke
the
around.
president?
That's why I brought it up.
Though,
Like that's
that's-
savage.
that's a
That's savage.
But it's crazy that we're at this point where we were talking. I was with Bridget Fetisi yesterday, and she was talking about this congresswoman. What did she do? Representative, the lady who said "fuck Trump" or "fuck Elon Musk,"
Fuck
rather.
Elon Musk. Yeah, she
Fuck
said,
Elon Musk.
She
Who
said
said
no
that?
one would pay
I'll fuck
attention
her
to
up.
her if she said what she should say. So she just went with like the crazy statement. That's
But,
what her.
but what we found fascinating yesterday, we were talking. We were like, imagine at any other time, people saying something like that. Like no one would ever say "fuck Ronald Reagan."
No, you
and
can't
tweet-
do that.
No
Dude.
one would say. No congressperson or senator or representative. No representative would ever get on a public forum like Twitter.
Never.
And write,
but
Barack Obama.
Never.
But listen,
I started seeing stuff in the emails. The thing that really freaked me out was this thing that Aspen Institute, it's called a tabletop exercise, and it was actually a Zoom call to role play how to deal with a Russian hack and leak around Hunter Biden. This is like in June of 2020. So this is like months before months before Rudy Giuliani gets the laptop, before Rudy Giuliani gives the laptop to New York Post. Why in the hell is Aspen Institute holding a tabletop exercise to pre-bunk? Basically, they are training or brainwashing all these journalists. And I mean, it's CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, Wikimedia Foundation, the Wikipedia folks, the networks, all of the social media companies, all coming together to be like, okay, well, if something is leaked, then we should not cover it in the way that journalists have traditionally covered it. Meanwhile, Stanford University, a few months earlier, had put out a report saying reporters should no longer follow the Pentagon Papers principle. Well, the Pentagon Papers, of course, is this famous episode. It was Steven Spielberg made a whole movie about it, where the Washington Post and New York Times published these internal Pentagon documents showing that the U.S. government was losing the war in Vietnam, right? This is Daniel Ellsberg, and he just releases it. He steals these documents. He breaks the law, steals these documents, gives them to the newspapers. The newspapers publish them. It's this kind of incredible moment in American journalism where we are like, the First Amendment gives these newspapers the right to publish hacked, so-called hacked, but leaked information. And here you have Stanford University, Aspen Institute saying, oh, no. That's all. We should stop doing that. Journalists should no longer write about leaked information in that way. Instead, we should focus on the person who leaked it. So it really sent chills up my spine. It was the creepiest thing I'd ever seen. And this is, of course, you got to remember, Aspen Institute is funded by the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Stanford's funded by the U.S. government. So this is, people go, oh, well, you're just, one of the responses we've got is they go, oh, you're just talking about, content moderation by private companies. No, we're talking about U.S. government-funded organizations. You can't, if the U.S. government is censoring information, that's obviously a violation of the First Amendment. But if the U.S. government is funding somebody else to censor information, that's also a violation of the First Amendment. You can't indirectly, it's still a violation if you're funding somebody to demand censorship. So that was quite a steeplechase, but there's a lot here. I mean, it's a lot of people, a lot of institutions, a lot to unpack, and that was part of the reason I wanted to reach out and be like, I need a Joe Rogan session to just kind of go through it all.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to provide that.
The other thing they did, the only thing that I saw in pharma personally that was shady is they would do these courses on never off-label promote, don't talk about this, don't talk about that, and you would sign all these documents saying, I'm not going to talk about this. Yeah, definitely. And then a week later, have us come listen to a thought leader in the field off-label promoting all the shit they told us not to talk about.
Explain off-label promoting.
So let me think of an example. Example would be Zyprexa, and they got exposed for this on Zyprexa. Zyprexa was indicated essentially for, I'll do a better one. If you look at OxyContin, how did OxyContin take over the marketplace? It's because what they did is they got the reps to go out and begin to recommend Oxy. So originally Oxy was meant for people who were like terminally ill with cancer and were in severe pain, or somebody who's on the upper echelon of the pain threshold. And the goal of a company and a rep is to grow the market. and to hit the number. And so when you go out, it's like, how do you grow the market? Well, we're going to grow the patient demographic. We're going to have to grow. We need the doctors to write more of this. So what they did with OxyContin was they went out and started. It got to a point where they were literally promoting it for people with migraines, and they were pumping these pain pills into all these practices.
I asked people online, I said, Mick West from Metabunk is going to be here. What would you like me to debunk? And one of the first ones was chemtrails, because you cannot debunk it. It's real. Dun, dun, dun. I would say this to anybody who thinks that. That has got to be the most ineffective government program of all time. Like, you ask people what they're doing by spraying things in the sky, and the number one thing they'll say is, like, weather control. Weather control is one. Well, they don't have any fucking control of the weather, because if they did, they'd make it rain all over Santa Barbara and stop these fires.
Yeah.
I mean, there's hundreds of millions of dollars worth of damage going on right now. There's a fire that's bigger than the city of Washington, D.C.
They think they're making those fires. They think that
that's right.
part of the conspiracy. Anything that happens is always part of the conspiracy.
What do you think it is? Like, what is it with conspiracies? Like, why are they so attractive to people? There's something going on with people, right?
Yeah. I think, I've been looking into this a lot.
I bet you have. Especially since you're a government shell.
Well, I'm doing research for the book I'm writing, which is called Escaping the Rabbit Hole, and it's about how people get into the rabbit hole and how people get out of the rabbit hole. So the whole thing is about the rabbit hole, which is something basically people get sucked into. And I think people do a lot of research into the reasons behind people getting into conspiracy theories, like the psychological reasons and the personality reasons and things like that. But I think most conspiracy theorists are just regular people. They're just ordinary people who get sucked into something.
And why do you think that is?
Just from talking to them, they tell me like their origin stories, essentially. And they tell me what happened to them when they got into conspiracy theories. And it nearly always starts with them looking at some video. Like nowadays, it starts with them looking at some video, and then they just get sucked in. Yeah. And then they start looking at another video and another video and another video. And Facebook and YouTube is feeding them these videos, because once you start going down that road, you just can't change your trajectory.
Right. It's hard to train. I mean, YouTube, since they instigated this autoplay thing, or instituted this autoplay thing, or the next video plays immediately and they're all related. Yeah. I think that's definitely been a thing with people. And also, like, the suggestions on the right-hand side if you're watching one video on a particular subject.
Yeah, I was doing some experiments with that. I set up like a completely blank YouTube account, and I would just go in there and type in one thing, like contrails. And of course, when you look at contrails on YouTube, like half the videos you're going to get are going to be chemtrail videos.
Right.
And so if the first video you click on is a chemtrail video, then that just sets you down that road.
Pentagon officially releases UFO. This is the tweet. It says, new Pentagon formally released 3 mysterious UFO videos captured by Navy pilots. The already leaked videos showed what DOD insists on calling unidentified aerial phenomenon, moving at incredible speeds and performing near impossible maneuvers. This is a weird subject, because it's one of those subjects where people automatically dismiss it because it's been so touted by kooks. There's so many wacky fucks that have talked about UFOs that anybody talking about UFOs has to be out of their fucking mind. But then when you see these videos and you see them performing these impossible tasks, like these things are moving in a way that we've never seen anything move before, flipping upside down and sideways, moving at insane rates of speed. Like, they don't know what these are.
Yeah.
Aerial phenomena.
What's interesting, though, is I was reading one of these stories, and they passively mentioned that the sighting was near a U.S. naval technology station of some sort, like a top secret development. And I'm like,
that could be one of two things. Either it's developed by the people that are at that base, or they're monitoring the people that are at that base. These aircraft, we call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the U.S. inventory, nor any foreign inventory that we are aware of. Maybe they see this shit that's going down with China and all the ships being moved, and like, listen, you fuckheads.
The aliens?
Yeah. Maybe they're like, listen, you fucking morons, you territorial apes.
I'd like to think that, but
You don't think so?
Manhattan Project, man. I mean, the U.S. has probably got some crazy motherfucking weapons. You know?
Could be, but the Manhattan Project was also coincidentally right after they started detonating bombs when the aliens started showing up.
That's what they think, right?
Yeah, well, that was when the bulk of U.S. sightings started jumping, and worldwide, I believe, too.
You know, maybe we've slowly been getting more and more information about this. I've been actually reading a lot of these stories over the past several months. More admissions from government, more release of documents, and more sightings. So there's been a big, I don't want to call it, well, a lot of people murmuring that April was going to be the month.
A friend of mine said something very profound. He said, hard times make tough men, easy times make weak men.
Yeah.
But hard men make easy times.
Ah.
You know?
Nice.
Like, and you think about it that way.
Yeah.
Hard times make tough men make easy times make weak men.
Yeah.
It's like a fucking gross cycle.
I know. Right,
I mean, when
exactly.
people are always like, kids today, these kids today don't know. Well, it's because they haven't gone through anything.
No, you can't manufacture that for them. My grandmother, this is a funny story, on 9/11, I was in New York. I was at Newark. You don't hear that a lot, by the way. This is a funny story. 9/11, but I was at Newark. I was flying out that day, and we watched the second plane fly into the...
You saw it?
The second one.
You saw it?
Saw it.
On television or in real
No.
life?
You know, at Newark, you look right across at...
You were looking and you actually
literally
saw the plane
across,
hit.
100%. I was... The first plane
What
had
the
hit...
fuck was going through your mind when you saw it hit?
Well, the first one hit before I got there, and I walked with a pilot down like through the airport, and he said, "Yeah, I think it was a Cessna." You know, it was kind of crazy, and so I'm down there, and I was at the desk, and I said I was going to Chicago, and I said to the woman working the thing, I said, "Do you think we're going to fly out today? Do you think we're going to actually get out?" And a guy yells, "Here comes another one." This man, just like a businessman. And we all turn, and you could just see it streaking across right into the, small. The plane looked small, but you saw insane. So I sit down. I just sat. And I was sitting with an artist, a middle-aged man who was an artist. And then we heard about the Pentagon as we were sitting there. And he opened up his little art case, and it had all these razors in it, like razor blades and stuff from his artwork, like how, he's a commercial artist. And he's like, "This has all got to change." He said, people are they let me on the plane with this. And we're just sitting there, like just freaked out, like calm, but freaked out. And I was calling my wife, who was in New York, and I woke her up, and we were trying to, talk, and she was going to the thing. And at one point, the artist I was sitting with just looked at me like in my eyes, like we were trying to understand what was happening. He said, "I think we should go home now." I was like, yeah, right. Of course we should, after sitting there for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I can't get back into New York. I can't get back into the city. Time's gone by. And I'm in a cab going up the Parkway in New Jersey, and there's just dust where the towers were. And I'm like, holy shit. So I can't get in. So I go to my Nana's house, who lives by Giant Stadium. And because she's the closest to the city, I can't get into the city. So this driver takes us over. And I get to my Nana's house, and she's so excited to see me because her grandson's visiting. And she lives alone now. My grandfather had passed. And I'm sitting in front of the TV, and I'm like, "Nana," like at first I hugged her, and I was like all weepy, like I was shaking, I didn't know what was happening. And she's like, "Oh, it's so nice to see you. Get in here. I visit. This is so great." And I'm like, "Do you see what's happening?" She's like, "Oh, I know. It's a crazy world." And I sit in her little tiny living room den area, and we have the TV on, and she's trying to talk to me, and I'm trying to watch the television, and this is the World War II mentality. I'm like, "Yeah, Nana," I'm kind of avoiding talking to her. And she goes, "All right, well, look, I have a bridge game, a card game with my lady friends. Here, take half of my sandwich." She opened her tinfoil, gave me half of her tuna fish sandwich. She goes, "You eat this. I'm going to go play cards with my friends, and we'll have dinner after. You'll be okay." And she walks out.
Wow.
But they were tough. They dealt with so much. I hadn't dealt with anything.
She wasn't even freaking out?
Not even freaking out. She's like, it's a crazy world. And she wasn't like, Alzheimer-y. She was just, hey,
it is
shit
what it
happens.
is.
Yeah.
We lost a couple of buildings and a few thousand people.
Yeah.
Here's half a sandwich. I'm going to go play bridge.
I'm going to play bridge. We got to keep moving. Wow. Tomorrow's another day. But that's how they live. Both my grandmothers are that way. Just completely like plow ahead, plow ahead. Don't get caught up thinking about everything that's happening. There's no sense in it. We've done that before.
Yeah.
And you get nowhere. So let's just keep going this way.
Did you see our video on the moon landing?
No.
Oh, this is one of my favorite videos we ever did. So, it's about how the moon land. The thesis is the moon landing could not have been faked. It would have been harder to fake the moon landing than it would have been to actually go to the moon, because the technology to fake it did not exist. Like, and we talked to a forensic film guy, right? Who's like he's got a fucking Oscar for analyzing old films, right? And he walked us through it. He's like, look, the shadows are parallel, right? They're not diverging. A close light source, the shadows would diverge, right?
So wait a minute. You know that's like one of the big arguments for the moon hoax is that the shadows intersect. The shadows indicate multiple light sources.
Well, that is because that's one of the
main arguments.
That is I believe that's reflected light. Okay, I'm getting past my memory of this segment.
Yeah, dude, I used to be a full-on moon hoaxer. I fully believed we never went to the moon.
I shouldn't have brought this up.
I watched the documentary that was on Fox TV while I was on news radio. It was like 1995 or something like that. I was fucking convinced.
But can I just say News Radio is one of my favorite sitcoms ever, by the way. That is a unacknowledged classic. I have watched the whole series like 3 times. That show is so... I'm sorry, just go ahead. I just had to say that much.
Well, anyway, back then... Fox News actually aired a full 1-hour show called Conspiracy Theory, Did We Land on the Moon? And it had me fully convinced.
Yeah.
There was all this shit that they showed, like the same background being used in multiple moon missions that were supposed to be on completely different parts of the moon. Like, how is this possible? They're supposed to be like nowhere near each other, but they have the same background. And that is, it looks like the astronauts are on wires, and it looks like the light sources there are multiple light sources, and the shadows are intersecting. And then, all the fucking astronauts, when they came back, they did this Apollo 11 post-flight press conference, and they looked like they're completely full of shit. I was all in, dude. All in.
And now you're all out?
No, I realize I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. That's one of the real problem with being all in with anything. But we also found that they did fake some things for publicity purposes. Photographs that were used that were photographs from tests that they did inside a warehouse with all safety equipment, and then they blacked out all the safety equipment in the background and pawn those photos off as spacewalk photos. But I think that's overzealous publicists. It doesn't mean no one went to space. Right? It's like making leaps. As opposed, what's the simplest explanation if they did fake some footage? Well, it's probably a bunch of simple explanations, but overzealous publicists, people wanting to show people video that they didn't have video of. Maybe the photos didn't come out so well, so they faked some of them.
Well, the thing about the shadows diverging, my memory of this is, we don't talk about that. When people say they see the shadows diverge, right? If you actually go outside on a sunny day when you have a single point of light like that with light reflecting, you will see 2 shadows of yourself going in different. There's one dominant shadow, and then there's a secondary one, right? Yeah. But if the sun is actually far away, right, for the main shadow, you will see the same shadows be parallel, right? If you had a close light source like on a film set, you see the shadows diverge, right? So we had this film forensic guy come on and tell us, look, if you wanted to get perfectly straight light like that, you would need lasers. You'd also need multicolored lasers, because at the time all that existed were red lasers, right? They had not invented anything other than red lasers, right? So NASA would have had to have multi-decade advanced laser light technology in order to fake this. Another part of it is that
if they just hired Kubrick, I think he'd figured out. I mean, same guy that did 2001.
This is what we demonstrate in our segment. Another part of it is people forget the moon landing broadcast was something like a 6-hour live broadcast with no cuts.